co-host of First Things First every single weekday from 6:30 to 9:30 a.m. on FS1. Pro Football Hall of Famer Cris Carter here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Cris?
Rich, how we doing today, buddy?
Well, I'll tell you what. Everything looked good in the horseshoe over the weekend. That's for sure.
I thought I was down in Florida for the weekend, but I thought I heard even the Michigan people. I thought that they were just so happy about Ryan Day, the Ryan Day era starting, and they don't have a quarterback, lost him to the NFL. This is going to be our year. And then about maybe 4 minutes into the game, they were doubled over like, oh, my goodness, when's the next time we're going to beat the Ohio State?
Well, I'll tell you this, Cris. You didn't hear it from me. You didn't hear it from me in terms of I had Ryan Day on the show 2 weeks ago, and I know who was coordinating last year in the big game, and I also know, Haskins, what he looked like when he came off the bench when J.T. Barrett was hurt in the big house a couple of years ago. I am not asleep at this switch whatsoever.
And actually, without Urban, intimidating and you looking over your shoulder if you're Ryan Day, because Urban, he likes to play conservative football, good defense, special teams, and don't take any chances on offense. Now Ryan Day can get his shop. It's his team. The university's back, and the fan base is, so it should be exciting. I am worried about their defense. I think that they're going to have some problems as far as the defensive line later on, especially their interior. They've got a couple injuries that I think that they'll hurt them as the season goes on.
Well, and also Urban was entertaining, and it was an interesting mix on the set on Fox Sports for college football. Do you think he's done coaching, Cris?
Well, unless everything that his wife, I've known his wife for many years, if everything that Urban's told me from a medical standpoint, like all that stuff where we just have to, a miracle would have to happen. So for me, it was completely medical. I'm very close to Urban. Urban coached me when I was at Ohio State. I looked in his wife's eyes, and I know she's done. And, Rich, you've been in this business a lot. You cover a lot of dynamic people, like people on the field, people in the mic. But when your spouse starts telling you it's over with, it's just a matter of time.
You are not wrong, Cris Carter. You are not wrong. What a happy life is. There's no doubt about that. Right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, what about let's dive into your let's stay, I guess, in a way with the Buckeyes. Zeke, hearing he's on a plane right now to Dallas. Are you hearing the same thing, Cris?
Yeah, I think Shannon reported earlier that he had inside information that Zeke was coming back as a sign of good faith. But Jerry knows. Jerry knows this can be a special year. He knows Zeke's a special, football player. But also, as you know, and knowing Jerry, man, Jerry is a tough negotiator. Don't let all them smiles and all those shucks, fool you. The NFL, if they were calling on one owner to negotiate a deal, they would call Jerry Jones. So Zeke is the best running back in the NFL and has proven it over 3 years, but because of off the field, it's allowed the water to be murky compared to being a slam dunk to now he's got to force Jerry, and that's what he had to do with this holdout.
Yeah, that hasn't been much discussed, Cris, because we know he's led the league in rushing 2 of the last 3 years and that the Cowboys can talk about Tony Pollard all they want, but it would be doing every single team a favor if they can't get Zeke on the field. And they play that team without Zeke. But not much is discussed about how the off-the-field stuff has played into this negotiation, with the exception of Jerry alluding to it when he said he had the right, he's earned the right to joke with Ezekiel Elliott. I'm wondering how much you think that's been playing into these chats.
Well, I know on Zeke's side, your leverage is not coming, and once the season starts losing games, but they know the reality. If Zeke had the same reputation off the field as Todd Gurley, then there wouldn't have been any problem. Le'Veon Bell suffered the same thing there in Pittsburgh. Yeah, Pittsburgh was concerned about the guaranteed money, but they were concerned, just like Ezekiel, but in a different form or fashion, this guy might end up in the principal's office. He's already been suspended once, that being both of them, and L. Bell and the Pittsburgh Steelers, they were very concerned moving forward, as far as, wow, do we give this kid all this guaranteed money and what could happen in the future? So it's a reality, man. not only should you pay your best players, but it's been a reality in the league for a long time, you pay your best citizens. And that's why I really had a problem with John Gruden, what he did with Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper. Like, these are great guys. You can start your program around these type of guys, but he decided to do different and actually made an investment in Antonio. And as you can see, him and Amari are totally just two different people, two totally different characteristics.
Cris,
I hope that makes sense.
It sure does. Cris Carter here on the Rich Eisen Show. Do you like what Bill O'Brien in Houston did over the weekend? I mean, all in here, short and long term, Cris.
Well, Rich, if I was – this is sometimes I'll try to put myself in other people's spot. If my job was on the line, man, I wouldn't be caring about the future. You know, if Eric Shanks called me today and said, hey, Cris, man, I'm concerned about your show and everything, man, I'd open up my Rolodex and pull out every name that I know. I would spend all the budget money for this year, next year, to be able to save my career. Because we need to find out, Deshaun Watson, we know football can get knocked out of you. We saw that in that division with Andrew Luck. That's all plain and simple. If you don't protect them, they will get hurt, and their careers could be altered. So why don't you? Now, I don't believe Tunsil is an elite player. I believe they paid too much for him. You know, I believe he is above average tackle. He's not great in run blocking. So did they spend a ginormous, yes, for an average player at this point? Yes. Now, can he get better? Yes, he can get better, but let's be real about it. Right now, he's an average NFL tackle.
And so Clowney also, for cents on the dollar, they sent him out the door. What do you think that means for Seattle? Does that change anything for you in the NFC picture, him being put there and the old NASCAR package that we know that Pete Carroll likes to employ?
I mean, Seattle did get better, but for me, Clowney is a limited player. Like, I can't pay him that franchise tag over 4 years. I can do it maybe for 1 year, but I believe his injuries, I believe they're real, and I believe the lack of versatility. Like, he's a stand-up linebacker because he is not great at dropping in space. And look at the type of defenders he's played with. Like, he's only going to have that type of sacks and J.J. Watt's getting double-teamed all the time. But what's going to happen when he gets double-teamed? So for me, the lack of overall productivity, yes, is he a freak athlete? Yeah, but thanks to Michigan in the Citrus Bowl, like, that's the best play he's made in his career.
Way to use that one, Cris. That's next level trolling. See, that's why you're in the Hall of Fame, Cris. Part of the reason why you're in the Hall. That was well done. That was a great play.
Yeah, but can I develop? He's a freak athlete. They called Randy Moss the freak, but he developed. Jadeveon Clowney has not developed. So to me, like, what's his versatility? What can he do? Is he a game changer? Do you have to double team him to win the game? And the answer to that would be no.
So then the last part of this, it's so difficult to accuse a team in the NFL of tanking because there's no way that the Dolphins who suit up on game day are going to purposefully lose. There's no way Brian Flores and his coaching staff are like, let's figure out a game plan where we can actually look good but lose today because we have to lose. But when you trade away players like this at the outset of the season, Kiko Alonso is now on the Saints. How can you not accuse the Dolphins of trying to tank for Tua right here, Cris?
Man, it's ugly. And, Rich, you and I are fortunate that we get to cover the NBA and other sports.
Right.
Most guys around the league, they're just only covering the NFL, so it's totally foreign to them. And the way we talked about the NBA and ultimately the product, we consume their product. We buy their app, NBA ticket. We go to their games, spend our money. And when you don't see the best players out there, because that's one thing about the Kaepernick thing that's always disturbed me. I've always been able to say the National Football League, it's the best of the best. It's the best players in the world. The NBA, it's the best players in the world. But when you start giving away things and you know that this team's not going to be competitive. I mean, Fitzpatrick, like, how much money they paying him to take that beating? Because I know if he signs there as a free agent and they say, you know something, we're not going to be real good this year. We're going to get rid of our left tackle. Does Fitzy sign there? So for me, the Dolphins, they are rebuilding. I am glad to see Kenny Stills get out of Miami with everything there with the owner and everything so he can have a clear conscience to go ahead and finish his career. Now, I do believe he could be the gem in this matter. Yeah, Deshaun, he's got to be responsible more with the ball. Bill O'Brien, they got to put together an offense that he doesn't hold the ball as much. But Kenny Stills, man, opposite of Nuke, man, they could do some damage in the NFL. So I think that Deshaun is one of the most underrated players we have in the league, and I'd love people to talk about him more. But, man, did they pay a handsome price for an average tackle and I believe an underrated wide receiver?
Cris Carter here on the Rich Eisen Show. It's interesting you mentioned Stills going to Houston. I mean, Dwayne Brown would tell you the Texans aren't the most woke team in the league either, Chris. I mean, what do you make of Flores seemingly sending Kenny Stills out of town because of all of this?
Well, if the original owner, Mr. McNair, was alive, I'd probably have some problems with it. But based on his stance on, the protest and everything, but he's not there. And I believe he'll have an opportunity to do the type of things that he deems to be important. But Brian Flores, he works for a boss, man. We all got bosses. And, man, we get orders a lot of times, man, we don't like. But what do we do? As far as keeping your job and being professional, you try to go about doing that. And Brian Flores is trying to build his career. Is this the only opportunity as an African-American that he might get as a head coach? I don't like the fact he's going to have to take all these losses. Him and Chris Greer, the general manager there, that's a rare combination as far as African-American in the head coaching seat and in the general manager seat, but they are tanking. We got to call it what it is, and it's going to be ugly. And to me, you put so many players' safety at risk. So many guys can get hurt. When I can't depend on the interior line, I can't depend on my left guard. I don't know the center if he's qualified to get the protection. People get hurt. And this is a big boy sport, man. This is not like basketball. You can hide guys. No, guys get hurt. And that's what I'm concerned about, the whole image of the league with the Dolphins and what they're doing. Yes, they are tanking, and it's going to be ugly.
Well, lastly on this subject, do you think it's possible, knowing the league as well as you do, Cris Carter, that the Dolphins have seen enough out of Josh Rosen over the last several weeks in practices that they could safely say he's not their guy despite coughing up a 2? And, I mean, poor Josh Rosen, I mean, what a situation. 2 first-year head coaches in back-to-back years with defensive pedigrees, and now banged up offensive line last year. This one, they trade away their best left tackle and potentially best wide receiver. I mean, how can you possibly evaluate Josh Rosen through all this unless they already have? Is that possible, Chris?
It's impossible. For one, it doesn't match up with why you trade a 2 for him. But, Rich, you cover this league enough, and we don't talk about it enough. Man, there's things called institutional talent. That's people picking the players, people who understand the salary cap, people understand how to put a roster together, and careers are determined off of that. I say 1% of all the players, only 22,000 ever played in the NFL, they can be in any system. Jim Brown, Barry Sanders, these dudes Reggie White, they can play anywhere. But the rest of us, bruh, man, we need a system, man. Cris Carter needs 3 receivers. I need to be in the slot at 6'2 and a half, 210 to be able to dominate. We need a system to be able to take advantage of our skill set. And Josh has not had it. And I believe that his career will be altered, that he'll never be able to fix it. Because when you have 2 organizations give up on you within the first 2 years, it's hard to recover from that. And unfortunate for him, the teams that drafted him and traded for him were in the situation they were in the time he came there.
Is Kirk Cousins in the right system with Kubiak up in Minnesota? Chris, what do you think?
Well, that's a wait and see. The thing about that system is the system don't matter because they paying him all that money. and when they pay you $28 million guaranteed, and they've never done that for any other quarterback, man, this is results, man. Kirk Cousins got to play big in the big games. Dalvin Cook, keep him healthy, and then no more excuses. When you're paying a dude that kind of scratch, man, you got to perform. Rich, is something you're used to. Every day they pay you all that bread, and you get it done. Not like Kirk Cousins. See, you're Michigan. He's Michigan State. It's a big difference.
All right, before I let you go, Cris, your Super Bowl prediction. It's going to be on Fox in South Florida. I'm sure you'll be a very large part of that coverage. Who plays in that game? Best you can tell here Tuesday after Labor Day, Cris.
Let's go with my Philadelphia Eagles that drafted me. Fly, Eagles, fly. Okay. A rematch against New England Patriots. New England goes to 4 straight.
It's tough to go in a different direction from New England, isn't it? It really, really is. And
I'd like to pick someone, but I can't make a case for him.
Well, you know why why New England is as good as it is year in, year out, Cris, right? You know that, right?
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Well, I mean, Belichick obviously has a lot to say. I mean, Belichick is terrific. He is the modern-day Lombardi, but his extension on the field, the man who gets it done when it's all said and done, the man who is the GOAT, the undisputed GOAT at the position of quarterback, Tom Brady, and the institution of higher learning that did put him into the NFL is a large part to do with that, the University of Michigan, Cris.
Oh, yeah. Michigan is the only team to stop Tom Brady, actually, from being productive. That's a great training ground for him. You guys set him up for success there.
Dean Smith did the same thing to Michael Jordan, Cris. I don't want to hear it. You know?
Hey, Michael Jordan was going back to North Carolina after he left. Tom Brady just started going back to Michigan. I wonder why.
No, you know what? You know what, Cris? We're just going to have to agree. I don't want to take Nick Wright's role here in this conversation, okay? You and Nick do a good enough job. I don't need to stomp on that, but we'll just agree to disagree on this front.
You are right that my man is the GOAT. I do have the highest regard for him. Yes, yes, yes.
Cris, you take care of yourself. Really appreciate you and the phone call, your show, and I hope to do this more often.
I appreciate it, man. Let's talk soon.
Right back at you. That's Cris Carter, at Cris without an H, Carter 80 on Twitter, at Cris Carter 1965 on Instagram, and you can check him out every single day on FS1.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.